to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Good evening, I'm Eliana Faith Sebastian, and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. On tonight's headlines.
I also encourage the BTA to...
President Marcos Jr. visits the southern city of Cotabato to lead the ceremonial parliament opening of the Bangsamoro, an autonomous Muslim region led by former rebels. Former rebels from the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or the MILF, are leading a transitional government for an additional 3 years after then President Duterte approved a law resetting elections to 2025. Rafale fighter jets, along with some other military aircrafts, fly in the showcase by the French Air Force in Indonesia's airspace as Jakarta awaits the delivery of its fighter jet order. Malacanang said President Marcos Jr. is set to speak before the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on September 20 in New York. And a 30% hike in fuel prices spurred hundreds of drivers of the most popular ride-hailing apps to hold protests across Indonesia at the beginning of September as they struggle to make ends meet. France Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna on September 14 expressed concerns on the role of China in Indo-Pacific region during her visit to India in Delhi. India and France also agreed to enhance their cooperation in the Indo-Pacific, including through trilateral partnerships with Australia and the United Arab Emirates, or UAE, in areas such as maritime security, trade, and climate action. Take a look.
That war that Russia is conducting there is of concern for every single nation in the world, because what is at stake is the stability of the international community. So all of us, we have to take care of that with our history, our past, our relations, our feelings, and it could go on with a long list, but this is of concern to all. We have no choice but to be multidimensional. We have to address the challenges in the region. They're not only those new ones, going with a new Chinese assertiveness. It goes beyond that, by the way. I don't want to make the world even more simple than it should be. It is complex, as we know.
According to an AP report, Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna and her Indian counterpart Subramaniam Jaishankar discussed the security situation in the region and the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, including concerns about food security and rising inflation, officials said. Colonna said the two countries share the same concern about China's role, especially along the disputed India-China border. Jaishankar said that it was important for like-minded countries to work together in the region to ensure peace, security, and prosperity. Indian and Chinese soldiers last week began pulling back from a key friction point on their disputed border as part of efforts to lower tensions in a more than 2-year standoff that has sometimes led to deadly clashes. The two countries have stationed tens of thousands of soldiers backed by artillery, tanks, and fighter jets along the de facto border called the Line of Actual Control. Rafale fighter jets, along with some other military aircrafts, fly in a showcase by the French Air Force in Indonesia's airspace as Jakarta awaits the delivery of its fighter jet order. Take a look.
Here, as part of the French strategy for Indo-Pacific, we want to show as well by using MRTTs, by using Rafale and A400M in the meantime, that our Air Force has a global reach.
The presence of those high-level equipments, it's a clear sign of our common willingness to work together in an unstable world where Indonesia and France share the same vision of an Indo-Pacific which is based on the rule of law and the freedom of navigation.
Kementerian Pertahanan dan Prancis juga baru-baru ini melaksanakan sebuah kontrak, di antaranya adalah akuisisi 6 buah pesawat Rafale, kemudian juga 2 buah pesawat A400. Ini semua ada dalam rangka memperkuat pertahanan Indonesia.
3 Rafale maneuvered and carried out aerial refueling above the Sunda Strait between Java and Sumatra Islands from a tanker transport aircraft. The French Air Force stopped by in the Southeast Asian country after its participation in the Pitch Black 2020 biennial multinational exercise in Northern Australia. Indonesia has signed a deal with France, which seeks stronger military ties in the Asia-Pacific to buy 6 Rafale warplanes as part of an anticipated total order of 42. The Southeast Asian country has also purchased two A400 transport aircrafts. President Bongbong Marcos Jr. urged the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, or the BTA, to pass legislative measures aimed at bringing progress to the Bangsamoro region. Marcos made the call during his first visit to the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao since he assumed the presidency. Take a look.
I also encourage the BTA to pass measures that will secure the welfare of the Moro people, particularly in agri-fishery, healthcare, transportation, communication, digital infrastructure, and e-governance. As we celebrate National Peace Consciousness Month this September, we know that with unity and solidarity, the BTA will be successful in facilitating the institution of the Bangsamoro government, one that is centered in promoting good governance and lasting peace for its people. The path to lasting peace is always under construction. But we walk this path together, and we walk it not because it is an easy one. We walk this path together because even if it is difficult, we know that at the end of the journey is historical justice, progress, peace, stability, and the unity that our peoples and our nation have long aspired for and so rightly deserve. I urge you to pass all the crucial legislations on foreign and fiscal policy, particularly taxation, and to facilitate the conduct of the elections in the BARM in 2025.
We will complete all the remaining transition priorities and finish setting up a government not only ready for a peaceful and orderly election in 2025, but also a government capable of continuing the transformation of the BARM into a progressive and responsive region, inshallah.
President Marcos Jr. visited the southern city of Cotabato to lead the ceremonial parliament opening of the Bangsamoro, an autonomous Muslim region led by former rebels. Former rebels from the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or the MILF, are leading a transitional government for an additional 3 years after then-President Duterte approved a law resetting elections to 2025. President has appointed last month the 80-member transition team that comprised the parliament, led by former MILF chairman Ahod Ibrahim, as the parliament's chief minister. The MILF-led BTA is referred to as BTA-2 to give its distinction from BTA-1 under the administration of former President Rodrigo Duterte. Malacanang said President Marcos Jr. is set to speak before the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on September 20 in New York. This is the first in-person UN General Assembly, or UNGA, to be attended by around 150 heads of state. Take a look.
The President will travel to New York next week to participate in the opening of the 77th session of the UN General Assembly. He will deliver the Philippine National Statement at the high-level general debate of the opening, and his speaking slot is approximately 3:15 in the afternoon of day 1. That's Tuesday, September 20, 2022. The theme of this year's general debate is A Watershed Moment, Transformative Solutions to Interlocking Challenges. Around 152 other heads of state and government will participate in the high-level general debate. The President will take this opportunity to meet with some of them during his stay in New York. He will also meet with some key United Nations officials. The President's participation in the opening of UNGA 77 is important because it marks his first engagement with the United Nations, which the Philippines recognizes as the world's most important multilateral organization.
The President has made it very clear from the initial discussions preparatory to this trip to New York that it will be more than his debut on the world stage. He gave unequivocal instructions that his meetings, whether with fellow world leaders or with U.S. corporations, should focus on finding the necessary partnerships or synergies that will benefit the Philippine economy and the Filipino people. As such, the other most important speech that the President will deliver in New York, aside from his UNGA address, will be at an economic briefing. This briefing is expected to attract institutional investors, senior corporate executives, business analysts, and even academics, think tanks, and entrepreneurs. The President will then participate in CEO roundtables on targeted sectors. These roundtables are designed to project the Philippines as an important emerging economy and investment destination in Asia. On the other hand, we expect the one-on-one business meetings of the President to deal with priority areas that can engender a quick post-pandemic economic recovery and the long-term resilience of the Philippine economy. The President intends to meet with U.S. companies that would be able to contribute to our efforts to achieve food security, energy security, and sustainable economic development, among others.
There is, however, no set meeting yet with U.S. President Joe Biden. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, said that this matter is still being consulted with the White House. The general debates in 2020 and 2021 were held virtually, where statements of government leaders and heads of states were delivered via pre-recorded videos. Former Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte participating in the last two general debates through a pre-recorded video. The President will leave for New York on September 18 and will be flying back to Manila on September 24. Hundreds of protesters joined a demonstration in the Indonesian capital, Jakarta, to oppose the government's decision to raise fuel prices. The protests have lasted for several days and spread to different cities across the archipelago. According to VOA News, prices of gasoline and diesel fuel jumped by about 30% last month after President Joko Widodo's administration cut fuel subsidies to reduce the country's multi-billion-dollar budget deficit. The price of gasoline rose from about 51 cents to 67 cents per liter, and diesel fuel from 35 cents to 46 cents. Fuel prices are a politically sensitive issue that can trigger other price hikes and possible mass protests. In 1998, an increase in fuel prices sparked riots that helped topple longtime dictator Suharto. A 30% hike in fuel prices spurred hundreds of drivers of the most popular ride-hailing apps to hold protests across Indonesia at the beginning of September as they struggled to make ends meet. Take a look.
Dikali 4 seharian, kurang lebih 50 kurang. Itu cukup apa, Mbak? Kalau misalkan kita mendapatkan segitu kan nggak cukup apa-apa. Belum buat makan, belum buat segala-galanya. Menurut saya, kalau BBM naik ya, Berdampak banget ya Pak, kalau untuk BBM nih, soalnya pengaruhnya banyak banget, belum dari buat dapur ya, rumah, itu efeknya ada pasti semuanya.
Seperti apa itu Bang?
Bahan-bahan kan pada ikut naik kan, jadi harapan sih biar Bali normal lagi aja, biar kita yang jangan yang susah tambah susah aja gitu, jangan pro ke menengah ke atas aja.
The drivers operate in an unregulated market, and critics say the firms exploit them as partners or contractors, taking large cuts of their daily income. To cut Indonesia's deficit during rising global inflation and soaring energy prices due to the war in Ukraine, President Joko Widodo slashed fuel subsidies. It pushed the price of Petrolite, Indonesia's cheapest fuel choice, from about 7,650 rupiah or 50 cents to 10,000 or 67 cents per liter. On-demand drivers say the two ride-hailing giants have only hiked fares slightly to the tune of 800 rupiah or 5 cents per kilometer to cover the additional cost. Both Gojek and Grab told AFP they imposed a rate change in line with the government regulation. On tonight's other news, Russian President Vladimir Putin is attending a high-stakes summit with Chinese President Xi Jinping. The two leaders face-to-face for the first time since the start of the war in Ukraine. The meeting in Uzbekistan come at a critical moment for President Putin and his military. Russian forces suffered a stunning defeat, losing massive lands in the north. Take a look.
Конечно, ребята, мы сегодня у нас на улице, на Муравской мы живем. Первые зашли две машины с украинскими солдатами. Со слезами на глазах встречали, честно говорим. Ждали их, но просто не ожидали, что так внезапно они придут. Но ждали целых полгода и очень рады.
Вчора утром були росіяни, сьогодні вже утром українці. Да. Ви знаєте, я не то, що я скажу, що довольний,
ми зайшли, щоб перевірити, наскільки тут безпечно, наскільки тут є вибухівка, розтяжки і куча всього остального. І, відповідно, перевірити, чи є тут ще, можливо, якісь остатки російської армії. І, в принципі, все понаходили, розтяжки, що могли, знайшли.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping met for their first face-to-face talk since the start of the conflict in Ukraine, hailing their strategic ties in defiance of the West. President Putin took a clear broadside at the United States, which has been leading efforts to support Ukraine and impose sanctions on Russia. Take a look.
Высоко оцениваем сбалансированную позицию китайских друзей в связи с украинским кризисом.
面对世界之变、时代之变、历史之变，中方愿同俄方一道努力，体现大国担当，发挥引领作用，为变乱交织的世界注入稳定性和正能量。
很高兴再次和你会面。
Sitting across from each other at two long rounded tables and flanked by aides, the two leaders met on the sidelines of a summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, or the SCO, in ex-Soviet Uzbekistan. The meeting was part of Xi's first trip abroad since the early days of the pandemic. For Putin, it was a chance to show Russia has not been fully isolated despite Western efforts. Chinese state broadcaster CCTV also quoted Xi as saying China was willing to work with Russia to support each other's core interests. The main day of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit will be on Friday, with sessions involving all the attending leaders. The Kremlin has touted the SCO summit in the ancient Silk Road city of Samarkand as showing there is an alternative to Western-dominated international institutions. The SCO, made up of China, India, Pakistan, Russia, and the ex-Soviet Central Asian nations of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, and Uzbekistan, was set up in 2001 as a political, economic, and security organization to rival Western institutions. Thousands of mourners faced 9-hour queues to pay their last respects to Queen Elizabeth II. Take a look.
They're not feeling the love. That's ridiculous. Right, show your wrist off. Be proud of those wristbands. You've got so
We're just really here for the pastoral care, which basically means just making sure everyone's kind of in the queue where they're supposed to be, making sure everyone's okay. If someone feels faint or something, we've got St. John's ambulance or first aid that we can call across to them. So we're just really here on the basis of just monitoring the movement, the flow, and dealing with any situations that may take place.
We've come from Gloucester, in Gloucestershire, and we've been 6 hours in the queue. We set off today at 11:15 on the train. We just felt we needed to be here just to see and experience it. It's a bit tiring on the feet, though.
Organizers have prepared up to 10 miles of queuing infrastructure with expectations that hundreds of thousands will participate. In particular, over the weekend, Queen Elizabeth will be buried together with her husband Prince Philip, who died in April last year, aged 99. Swiss tennis legend Roger Federer is to retire after next week's Laver Cup. He admitted his battles with a knee problem had forced him to call time on his historic career. EJ Gonzalez from our U.S. Bureau reports.
Swiss tennis superstar Roger Federer took to social media to announce his retirement from professional tennis, a career that stretched more than 24 years. On Thursday morning, he posted on his Twitter account telling fans that the Laver Cup in London will be his final ATP event.
As many of you know, the past 3 years have presented me with challenges in the form of injuries and surgeries. I've worked hard to return to full competitive form, but I also know my body's capacities and limits, and its message to me lately has been clear. I am 41 years old. I've played more than 1,500 matches over 24 years. Tennis has treated me more generously than I ever would have dreamt, and now I must recognize when it is time to end my competitive career. The Laver Cup next week in London will be my final ATP event. I will play more tennis in the future, of course, but just not in Grand Slams or on the tour. This is a bittersweet decision because I will miss everything the tour has given me, but at the same time, there is so much to celebrate. I consider myself one of the most fortunate people on earth. I was given a special talent to play tennis, and I did it at a level that I never imagined for much longer than I ever thought possible. I would also like to thank my competitors on the court. I was lucky enough to play so many epic matches that I will never forget. We battled fairly, with passion and intensity, and I always tried my best to respect the history of the game. I feel extremely grateful. We pushed each other, and together we took tennis to new levels. Above all, I must offer a special thank you to my unbelievable fans. You will never know how much strength and belief you have given me. The inspiring feeling of walking into full stadiums and arenas has been one of the huge thrills in my life.
The 41-year-old has played more than 1,500 matches and has won 20 Grand Slam titles. Recently, though, injuries have kept him off of the court. He underwent his third surgery in just 18 months. His last tournament was in 2021, where he lost in the quarterfinals at Wimbledon. Federer said he has worked hard to return to full competitive form, but knows his body's capacities and limits. At the end of his tweet, Federer assured his fans his feeling for the sport would not fade, saying, "Finally, to the game of tennis, I love you and will never leave you." EJ Gonzalez, Alexandria, Virginia, Eagle News, we live in extraordinary times.
At least 13 people were killed and 23 others injured when two passenger buses collided with a parked car on a motorway in central Myanmar, rescue services said Thursday. The crash near central Kaik Padum Township in Mandalay region occurred at around 8:25 p.m. local Wednesday night. 13 men and 1 woman were seriously injured, the service said, adding that 5 men and 4 women were lightly hurt. All were sent for treatment at nearby Kaik Padum Hospital. The cause of the collision was not known. Since the military coup in February last year, a nighttime curfew has encouraged drivers to rush to their destinations. And on the outskirts of Bangkok, Thailand's Ruckus motorbike drag racing makes its return after a 2-year pandemic hiatus. The popular event aims to take illegal races off the streets and onto the tracks. Take a look.
ใช่ครับชอบมาตั้งแต่เด็กพี่แต่งมาตั้งแต่เด็กเลยพี่แต่มองก็ไม่เคยเบื่อเลยพี่ขี่ก็ไม่เคยเบื่อไปไหนขอให้มีรถแบบนี้ไปได้หมดเลย ถ้าพลาดคือมีสิทธิ์เสียชีวิตไม่เสียชีวิตก็พิการพี่รถมันมาความเร็วพี่แล้วหลังถนนแบบวิ่งยาวพี่แล้วเกี่ยวกันมีสิทธิ์เกี่ยวรถไม่ได้หลายคันพี่แต่ถ้าในสนามเนี่ยเราเฝ้าคันเดียวมีคนดูอยู่กู้ภัยเขาคอยนี่เราดูเรา
ตอนนี้นอกแค่ไม่มีรถแข่งเลยครับด้วยทุกวันนี้แบบว่าพอแข่งขันสนามเนี่ยมันได้ชื่อเสียงได้เงินได้งานอะไรอย่างเงี้ยครับแล้วแต่ละช่างนี่ก็ทำแบรนด์เป็นของตัวเองเพื่อส่งออกขายต่างประเทศได้
And that's it for today's broadcast of ASEAN in Focus. This has been Eliana Sebastian. Have a good weekend. Stay in the news because we live in extraordinary times. Good night.